It's a segment that is becoming so powerful, I'm worried about the other segments.
Bro, do you know what he said to me yesterday, bro?
This is
2 days ago? He was like, we got to figure out a way to make tiers better because Mahomes Mountain is overshadowing it. I said, do you know how much that hurts the committee? Like, we got 11 guys working gratis, and you're saying my stupid mountain is overshadowing.
Just 11 anonymous people versus a mountain, and there's snow. I'm just saying, I don't know.
The mountain is very controversial these days.
Well, the mountain is fair. We've had a lot of different people at the top. I wonder who'll be at the top this week.
Nick Wright, Kevin Wilds, Chris Broussard, who is healthy today. Welcome back, Drew.
Yeah,
that's good.
Quick recovery.
I unfortunately have bad news for you. Starting with the hamstrung Ravens. Brian Wacker of the Baltimore Sun reporting that the 1-3 Ravens might be without their franchise QB. Lamar Jackson is likely to miss Sunday's game against the visiting Texans with a hamstring injury. Two sources with direct knowledge of the situation confirmed to the Baltimore Sun today. Given the nature of the injury, he also could be out for up to 2 to 3 weeks, one of those sources said. Nothing for certain, Brew, but the Texans are favored now in Baltimore. How is this news landing for you?
But by the way, Brew, I know you're not a gambler. Monday morning, the Ravens were 6.5-point favorites, and they are now 2.5-point underdogs. So that is a 9 points of line movement. And Monday morning, we knew about all the defensive injuries.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's a 9-point line movement based, I think, off the Lamar news.
It's kind of fair.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's worth that.
Yeah, without him, they're in trouble, obviously. Look, they got the Texans and the Rams. The Rams, if Lamar's not in that game, you would think the Rams are just going to have a field day against that defense. So, and Cooper Rush, do they try to bring in Tyler Huntley? I don't know. He's available. Remember, he was a Pro Bowler there.
Is he available? I thought
he's on their practice squad.
Oh, I thought he did where was he?
He was in Cleveland.
He was in Cleveland for a little bit.
Oh, he was in Cleveland for that cup of coffee.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
He would seem to be a more seamless transition, right, than Cooper Rush. I mean, Cooper Rush, that feels like a whole different type of offense.
Tony Romo thought he'd give him a spark.
Yeah.
Cooper Rush.
I mean, look, the good news is that if Cooper Rush is in there, you would assume it's going to be more Derrick Henry running the ball. But bottom line, 1-5 is now very much on the table. Fortunately for them, they have a bye after the Rams. So if Lamar misses even 3 weeks, he could be back for that Bears game. That Bears game, Nick, I'm saying that could be the season. Let's assume Lamar is back, and let's assume they're 1-5 and Lamar gets back. If they lose that game to the Bears, it's pretty much over. Because 1-6 to run the table, I think the division's going to be tough to run the table in.
Yeah.
Cincinnati's obviously going to be not tough, but Cleveland's a tough out. And Pittsburgh, their defense is playing well. And that's always a good game. They're always tough. So
you don't want to go into. Can we throw that back up there?
I'll say, my point about the Bears is this: if they lose to the Bears, obviously they'd be 1-6. But then it's also beyond the record. It's like, well, a lot of these teams could beat you if the Bears are going to beat you. Yeah. And so I think that could be a critical game if they
So just leave this up for a second, because I'm not going to be maybe as fatalistic about this as people would expect.
I'm not
totally right. And I don't know where Wilds is going to be. What I am going to say, though, is this. You cannot go into that right-hand column, week 13, having to run the table. You're not going 6-0 in that column. Like even if Cincinnati is packed up shop for the year, the Steelers are no matter who's playing quarterback for them, a tough matchup for Baltimore. The Patriots, I think, are a decent team that will be getting better as the year goes on, one would think. Yep. And the Packers are legit. You can't, you know what I mean? So I understand that you could be, in theory, 5-6 going into your, you know what I mean, there, and be like, well, 11-6 is going to get in. You're not going 6-0 in the final, you know what I mean, 6 weeks of the year. With that said, I think they can beat Houston without Lamar. I think that one of the downsides for like this week's discourse of the Texans Ravens game is going to be that no one watched Texans Titans. But One
Yeah,
of the,
it wasn't 26-0.
correct. That game was 6-0 in the fourth quarter, where it looked like every Texans game has looked.
Yep.
The defense looks really good, and the offense is awful. Now, CJ, to his credit, played really well in the fourth quarter, and maybe they got something going. But if they're, I know you said yesterday, like the Ravens are a get-right team for teams' offenses. In the Ravens' defense, we have seen them torn up by what I believe to be three of the best offenses in football. I know the Chiefs weren't, but I think they will be. The Lions obviously are. The Bills obviously are. And sometimes even an awful defense can give a level of, deterrent, if you will, to a bad offense.
Yep.
And so I do think Derrick Henry, by necessity, becomes the game plan. And I don't think at 2-4 going into the bye, they'd be done. I think 1-5 going into. You're pushing it a game out.
You think they're done at 1-5?
I think at 1-5 they're done. I think at 1-5.
And remember that division. I think 10 wins. At this point, it becomes getting the playoffs.
Get in the playoffs. I still believe 10 wins will get you in the playoffs in the AFC.
I have a request for Hubs that I should have done behind the scenes, but I'm going to do it on air.
Yeah.
Hubs, can we look up the Ravens Super Bowl odds if they changed? If this Texans game flipped on odds, I'd be interested to see if they're Super Bowl odds
as of
changed
yesterday, they still had better odds than the Chiefs.
So there's 6. So here's
they just slipped a little.
This is more than glass half full. This is glass so full. I forgot what they call that part of when the water's actually. Yeah, but it's not overflowing. It's actually over the rim. There's a name for it. It's like who cares?
And they're just real quick. They
is this a water thing or the Ravens?
Were minus 200 favorites to win the division. Today, they are minus 145 favorites to win the division.
Thank you.
So not smaller favorites, but slight favorites.
Houston would be a great win for them.
Yes.
And we'll see if the defense can hold.
Go ahead. Let's hear the water overflowing, but not overflowing.
Obviously, I don't want Lamar to be hurt. This is assuming Lamar comes back 100% healthy.
After the bye.
After the bye.
Right.
I don't hate the Ravens going through a very strenuous, tough, woe is us, we've got to get right, let's circle the wagons period for the first 30% of the season, and then rocket ship into the playoffs.
Once he gets back.
Rather than peaking at like week 8, like, wow, the Ravens won a game 48-10, Lamar had 5 touchdowns and was throwing behind the back alley-oops.
Right.
A team that's has to just really, we haven't seen that.
That's not bad as long as you get in the playoffs. That's the thing. Like, it's starting to get to a point where they just can't afford too many more losses. So that I like that. Adversity. If they go in as, let's say they went in as the 6th seed. I mean, ideally you'd want to probably get the winner of the AFC South, in the playoff. If you're a wild card, and then maybe you got a shot. But yeah, I don't hate that.
Can I give a different glass half full?
Sure.
Because I'm shocked. Usually when I say I know what you're going to say, or you say back to me, we're right. I was totally wrong. I thought you were going to say the bright side is having Lamar out if it's temporary, and then being forced to go through Derrick Henry.
Yes.
And then potentially saying, by going through Derrick Henry, by default, our defense is a little better.
Yeah.
Because it's longer possessions. They're a little fresher. Then when they have Lamar back, they might have the more balanced game plan that you guys have talked about. You know what I mean? That almost trial by fire. It's like, oh, wait, we beat, a Texans team 20-17 with our defense, you know what I mean, playing its best game of the year, even if that's a little misleading because the Texans struggling on offense, but Derrick Henry has 28 carries and that they take some of that game plan. I don't think the Ravens are dead. If the Chiefs had lost that game, now if the Chiefs had lost that game and Mahomes was out, they don't have a Derrick Henry, so that's a little different. Right. But if the Chiefs had lost that game at 1-3, I wouldn't be saying they're dead at 2-4. You know what I mean? And so now again, the SBOB component, play your best ball in the postseason, that's different. The Ravens now, and maybe again, we're trying to be optimistic, I guess. Maybe it could be good for them to not have a regular season that feels like we're
like a coronation.
like or a regular season where it's like, okay,
treading water.
The game,
like
right,
waiting.
we're treading water, waiting for the big game that really counts. To where it's like, wait, we gotta get going now, maybe.
I think one of the best things you said was that look, the defense does look bad, but it has been 3 great quarterbacks and offenses that they faced. And this will tell the test, like what they do against Houston, because that's a bad offense.
It's a bad offense.
And so if they give up 35 to them, then the defense is just shot.
What were you about to say? You had a joke.
No.
You had
a joke.
No, I didn't have.
We can tell. With the
it would be
smile.
bad if it would be bad. It would be bad for Mahomes if C.J. Stroud puts up 35. Also, I'm not saying you said it, but a few years ago when Cooper Rush got in there for Dak.
Oh, that's what I was gonna say.
I didn't say it.
No,
This is everybody.
You were mentioning it. People were saying it, but
this
you didn't
was
say it.
bad. Brew had a caller on The Odd Couple say it, and then he brought it to TV.
Yeah, I'm not saying Brew, what are you saying?
Everybody
I'm not saying it. I'm not. I just
Hey, Cooper Rush 4-0.
I mean, it'd be nice. That offense is so different than what he does.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
That's the spark, according to
We'll
Tony
see.
Romo.
We'll see.
We have more unfortunate injury news. This is about Tyreek Hill, dislocated his knee, tore multiple ligaments, including his ACL. He's hospitalized overnight. Surgery was scheduled for today. Ian Rappaport's reporting that there's no guarantee he's going to be ready for 2026. Drew Rosenhaus tweeting this picture out. So Tyreek is in good spirits. Nick, your reaction to this news?
All right, multifaceted. First one is this. The internet can be, dumb always. I found, and I'm not really in the business of like always defending Tyreek Hill, but the internet's reaction to someone who had just suffered a truly traumatic injury and being in literal shock, as when he's clapping and smiling like it's some amount of relief, or like he doesn't have to be with Tua or any of that stuff, was some of the most outrageous stuff, even by current internet standards I've seen. Like he was not sober, if you will, in that moment. Like, you know what I mean? Your body, you go into shock. And bright side of the internet is we have access to a lot of actual doctors that can explain this is about as catastrophic of an injury as one can suffer. The knee, it's not kneecap dislocation, it's knee dislocation. It could be all the ligaments, it's certainly the ACL, and it's at least a year, it might be 2 years, and it might be his career. And that is stunning, shocking, and awful. And to me, the best way to frame it is if this is the end of it, I think it is a career unlike almost any other. And I think if you were to ask me guys in the modern era of football who I definitively would rather have at their peak than that player at his peak, that hands down I'd rather have, it's 2 names long. It's Rice and Moss, and that's it. He is in there he is either ahead of or next to, in my mind, Megatron and Owens. And even though like Fitz and Marvin Harrison and my colleague and pal Chris Carter had longer, more decorated careers, his peak, the only guys whose best was better than his, to me, is Moss and Rice. I don't know where that makes him in the all-time receiver pantheon, because he played 9 years and didn't play. Like, this was his 10th year and he didn't play a ton as a rookie as a receiver. It's 8 amazing years at the top of the league.
Yeah, I agree. When you said it, when you said peak, like, do I rank him as a top 5 all time? I don't know. It's hard to say.
Because he didn't play longer.
Yeah, but obviously he was great with Mahomes, and he was perfect for Mahomes because Mahomes can do a lot of backyard stuff, and he was perfect for finding the seam, getting open as Mahomes scrambling and being there for a long pass. And then in 22 and 23, his first two years in Miami, or I think those were his first two. Those 2 years, I agree with you. Like, Randy Moss with Brady and Randy Moss, period. But outside of that, I don't know who you put ahead, and Jerry Rice, you put ahead of Tyreek Hill. Like, I was wondering, technically he's not the greatest receiver ever. He does have some drops and some in big moments. He, route running is okay. It's not, but his speed changes everything. And obviously there are a lot of fast receivers, but his speed is different and his ability to run after the catch. Like, so I just think that I agree. Like those couple years in Miami, the interesting thing is this, because we're going to talk about A.J. Brown. He won his Super Bowl, Tyreek, with Mahomes in Kansas City and was obviously viewed as a great top receiver. But it was in Miami that he actually put up these historic type numbers and really made you start thinking about him in comparison to Randy Moss and others. So that's where, you know, an A.J. Brown looks at something like that and says, you know, you left winning, but Tyreek got paid, and individually, at least for those 2 years, it helped him. So you have to think about that.
Just for the conversation, you kind of did a retrospective. Do you think that this is that we're not going to see him, or we're going to see him in a reduced?
Yeah, I mean,
fashion?
I think.
I know we're not doctors.
Listen. I think because he's not that tall.
No.
He's incredibly strong, but to Bruce's point, he's not a technician. He's not this amazing route runner. He's not, you know, he's not super tall. He has good but not like great hands even.
Right.
I had somebody, his first year in Miami, somebody really close to LeBron reached out to me and said, Tyreek's now the best athlete in American sports. He's a better athlete than LeBron. And that was, I'm mentioning that only for the context of like his raw, natural athleticism that he maximized. Can we show, like there's, the 13 seconds game is famous for a million things, and this kind of gets lost in the shuffle. This play with a minute left down. He's the only player in league history, I think, that scores on this. I really believe that.
I mean, look at that speed. Guys got all sorts of angles.
Run it again. This is, again, it's a minute left, down 3 in a playoff game. A regular play, he's covered, he gets
like a
it.
first down.
And
these are DBs.
I mean, those are DBs that all have the angle on him in the biggest moments of, you know, their season. Like, and so so the reason I say all that is, I really worry that if he comes back as a 4-4-5 guy,
right,
he's just not. And so, by the way, even though again, this was his 10th year, take this year off. His rookie year, he was a kick returner. So he had 8 years playing. Here's what he accomplished if we just roll through all of them, Dusty. Since the merger, 5 or more first-team All-Pros. Jerry Rice had 10, pretty good. Tyreek and Terrell Owens had 5, that's the list. The 1,700-plus yard seasons, all of them were since the merger. Everyone else on that list did it one time. He did it twice, both with Tua, never with Mahomes. And then big game performances, guys with a ring and 80 yards per game in the playoffs. It's Tyreek, playmaker, Trav, and Mike Evans. Like, he's packed a ton into this decade. And listen, a storybook football is, you know, that in 2 years, he's on the Chiefs, you know what I mean? And he finishes there. I'm not trying to do that to the Dolphins, but I would think that
now I think that it would be a...
Yeah, but I just don't know.
He will, I would imagine, first of all, he's 31.
Yeah.
So if he's 33 when he comes back, you're already older. Look at the difference in DeAndre Hopkins now versus when and he's made some good catches, but he's not the same. So you got that, you got this injury. Nick's right, like if he's not this burner, Randy Moss is obviously the ultimate combination of just receiving skills and speed because he was like world-class speed. But you've had guys that were great, just burners, like almost world-class speed in terms of track athletes, try to play football. Some of them did play and they were okay. He is the greatest, outside of Moss, the greatest combination of somebody with nearly world-class speed in a track and field sense and being a really good, great football player.
Tyreek's 5'10", and Moss was 6'5", and had a basketball player's vertical. Like, it's just Tyreek's ability to jump for a ball, land, and get to full speed within 3 steps was unlike any player I've ever seen.
The Dolphins will play the Panthers on Sunday without Tyreek Hill. Chiefs, road favorites, looking to get above 500 when they head to Jacksonville to take on the Prince and the 5th best scoring defense in the league. Nick, is it reasonable to have doubts about KC being fully back on track?
Well, so because we got, and I would like to apologize to Kevin Wildes publicly for my tone of some of yesterday. I get, as I've explained to the audience before, I get a visceral reaction to awful takes, and I should have controlled myself professionally better, so I apologize. But I want to be very clear on this. I am not of the belief or stating the Chiefs' offense of 2018 to 2022, when they were 32 points a game for a half decade, is what we're getting the rest of the year. You know what I mean? I don't think that is what's back. What I do think is they are out of their funk, and they now have the ability to combine what they had last year, which is situational excellence, and the last couple of years, a really good defense, with what is starting to be an NFL-level receiving core. You know what I mean? Like, they just, last year, they didn't have it because of the injuries, and in the first few weeks of this year, they didn't have it because of the suspension and the injury. And so what I think is unreasonable at this point is to go into any game against any matchup and look at the Chiefs as some decided or real underdog. Right. You know what I mean? I don't think they're running the table the rest of the way, and I think the Jags defense, as much as I'd love it to be the Prince is not why they're 3-1. The Jags defense is why they're 3-1. So I don't think they're going to put up 35 again, but I think that they're going to look more Chiefsy than they have, pre-tackle that turned the tide, as everyone's talking about.
Brew, this is the Jags defense that Nick is mentioning. As I mentioned, 5th best scoring defense, 1st in touchdown interception ratio. Only 7 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, passer rating at 69, and red zone touchdown percentage at 44. That's 5th best. So.
And takeaways, aren't they?
Number 1 in takeaways by a mile.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
last year, last season, the Jags had 9 takeaways, which seems like an impossible stat, but it's true. They have 13 this year through 4 games.
No, their defense has been incredible. I think I agree with Nick, and I understand what he's saying. Like, again, I never thought they weren't a Super Bowl contender, but a lot of people seem to be thinking that.
Yes.
That they were done as an elite team.
Dynasty was over.
That's what is not reasonable to say, that they're no longer an elite team. And I think you can debate whether or not they're the best team in the AFC.
Sure.
It's really obviously them in Buffalo, and obviously the Chargers beat them. So the Chargers and the Bills and the Chiefs, if you want to debate that. But I will say this. In a big game, the only team I would take over, the Chiefs are playing an opponent in a big game. The only team I'll take over them is Philly. If you think Buffalo's better this year, then Buffalo's got to go prove it. I don't care what the Chiefs, they might go 11-6 or 12-5 or whatever. And they're going to probably lose a few games, but their mojo seems to be back. And I think they're just going to get better offensively with Xavier. That was just his first game. So he's going to get better. And then when Rice gets back. So, yeah, I think they're where we would have expected them to be coming into this season.
So it'll be an interesting game here.
Jacksonville game. Can I ask a corollary from yesterday?
Sure.
So because of that full screen you just showed, by the logic we screamed at you, or I yelled at you about yesterday, if the Chiefs score 17 points, that's not a bad game?
Not sure.
37 was not good against the worst defense, so 17 has to be not bad against the best defense.
I'm not sure. Anybody who scores, if you score 30 points on the Ravens,
you have an MVP candidate at quarterback.
Should Eagles fans be worried about A.J. Brown?
Yeah, at least a little. I think they should be worried, and I think this is where I would put a little more on the plate of Jalen Hurts. And as not only team leader, but team quarterback, which is, it is a fair commentary on Jalen Hurts, the quarterback, that his biggest weakness as a passer is that intermediate over the middle. He does, there's stylistically, he has some similarities to late stage Russell Wilson. You know what I mean? Where it's a lot of like stuff short and in the flats and then deep passes, particularly down the sidelines. A.J. Brown excels in that area where Jalen is not great. And because of that, and because the team has been, they won, 20 out of 21 or 19 out of 20, whatever it is, they've been like, well, if he's not great at it and we don't need to do it, why do it? I think Jalen needs to advocate to do some more of that and to try to bring him back in, because I do think the Philadelphia Eagles, it is more incumbent on them to make sure A.J. Brown is firmly within the fold than it is to have the absolute ideal Week 5 game plan. Because I think they are playing for another championship, and it's so hard to do so. And also, as far as their ability to win that other championship, having teams be worried about, they'll throw to all quadrants, you know what I mean? We have to cover all routes, I think would help you against your best opponents down the road, because I don't think they're going to win every game the way they have the last 20. So that's what I think needs to happen, even if it seems a little unfair to Jalen, because he didn't ask for any of this.
So interesting watching the press conference, and it's such consistent language. So if you have a blow up with a player on the sideline, it's because he's passionate. Yeah. And then if the guy starts saying stuff about the team, it's because he's so competitive. I don't question his It's all the stuff you have to say when you're going through this. And this isn't groundbreaking where you have a receiver who wants the ball and is unhappy about it and goes public. So I would imagine that you'll go to the offense coordinator like, okay, let's get him play 2 and play 5, or A.J. Brown plays, and you just figure out something that you can get him the ball to kind of pacify him in the first script. And then ideally in the start of the second half, okay, what are a couple A.J. Brown plays that we need to put in?
But Coach, they haven't done that. It's not like this is brand new. Like this popped up pretty early.
But at this point, he's last year the library book came out during the playoffs. Now we've got the tweet in week 4. So this is coming to a head a lot earlier, which we all could have predicted based off of his comments in the offseason as well. So you're gonna have to identify a couple A.J. Brown plays, and the rest of the offense will all kind of roll their eyes because they know what it is. And it's not that anybody disagrees how talented he is, but when you're putting together a game plan, you're ideally trying to beat whatever the coverage is, and you're trying to get to the best play. And then when you start having to accommodate for personalities, it can be a little bit disruptive. And when you're 4-0, the last thing you want is something that's disruptive.
Yeah, no, I agree with it. And I think, Nick, I agree with you on your assessment of Hurts. But when they need it, they can go in the intermediate.
It's really weird.
I totally agree that the offensive coordinator should open up the playbook a little more. But as far as A.J., he had 9 targets last week.
How many were catchable, though, bro?
Well, he wasn't open. Like, in the second half, pretty much none of them.
Yes.
Because he was covered. But Josh Allen is a prime example. When Stephon Diggs left, who was his best receiver, he got better because he wasn't preoccupied with, I got to get Steph the ball. And I'm not saying Dak was that way with CeeDee Lamb, but we just saw this weekend against Green Bay, when Dak doesn't have his best receiver, and he has a phenomenal game because he's probably just going to whoever the open guy is. A lot of times it was Pickens, but I just think you don't want your quarterback totally feeling like I've got to get this guy the ball. And
it is very disruptive.
Can I push back on that though? Because if this feels different than, it's not like Devontae's and Dallas Goedert are having huge years. And AJ's frustrated because the passing offense is working. He's just getting iced out.
They're not throwing much.
There's 256 offensive halves of football played this year through 4 weeks. The 256th most productive and the 255th most productive are from passing offensive this season, were the Eagles' first half 2 weeks ago and the Eagles' second half last week. This is a weird thing where, yes, they are winning, but the part of the offense that A.J. Brown is involved in is not working to a way the Titans are working. You know what I mean? Like every other team, to have negative yards in the first half 2 weeks ago and 0 completions in the second half last week, it's not So that's the point.
The run game isn't working.
The run game's not working anyway.
Like,
you give the Eagles. This
games.
is where oddly, Sirianni deserves massive credit. Their special team's been great. Like, they're not turning the ball over. They're doing a lot of things that allow you to win games without passing the ball. But this isn't to me irrational for any player, much less a star receiver, to be like, guys, we had negative passing yards through a whole half 2 weeks ago, and last week we didn't complete a pass.
He should and maybe he's doing this, but he needs to be talking to the coaches, talking to Jalen privately.
But
does he feel like I've been doing that for 2 years and nobody's hearing me, so I'm going to tweet something out?
But I promise you, we're not revealing this to the Philadelphia Eagles coaching staff. Like, they know there's problems, and they're trying to address those problems, and it hasn't been working. So it's not that by making this public, somehow it's going to draw their attention to the fact that they're trying. Do you think anybody in that building wants to have 0 passing yards or to have the 2 of the most unproductive quarters of football?
I think it's the OC. I think that he's like, I don't know what's going on. I assume he's getting his feet wet just like any other team that's had a slow start. That's what I assume, Coach. And he's like, you know what, I'm going to unveil some interesting goal line stuff. I worked the whole week on the fake tush push and the little shovel pass. And maybe this week, all right, now I'm going to look at A.J. Brown plays. I assume that's the personnel that changed. Jalen was there. Sirianni was there. Petula was there, but now he's in charge.
Well, in 22 and 23, A.J. Brown had great
monster years.
Great numbers with Jalen.
And collectively, like you said, the running game's not much is working, but there is an awareness in the building that it's not working. It's not like we're not springing it on them.
One piece of solace for A.J. Brown. You could be on the Bengals and Jamar Chase. Bengals lose to Denver behind a blah game from Jake Browning that saw the team outgained by over 350 yards, 9 straight punts, 9 total first downs, 2 tweets from Jamar Chase. First one, you better leave me alone. With some smiling emojis. And I play with passion. And it has the little tiger there and it says Houday. So do the Bengals need to make a move at QB or are we just still rolling with Browning?
Go ahead. I wouldn't give up on the season if I were Cincy.
That means make a move or don't make a move?
I would make a move.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm saying. I think not making a move is punting on the season. And now, I don't think the Steelers are a juggernaut, and we're talking about the Ravens, Lamar missing time. It feels they gave themselves a bit of a grace period by winning those first 2 games. I personally would call Atlanta and see if Kirk Cousins, what it would cost to bring in Kirk Cousins. And we're not even, I would do that even if Joe Burrow was definitively out for the year. They seem to be holding out hope that maybe he could be back by December. And if that's the case.
Really?
Yeah, that's what the original reporting was 3 months. I don't buy that reporting, but regardless, I just think Browning had that great 8-game stretch 2 years ago. That doesn't seem to be anywhere close to the player he is now, and they're still in it. So I would prefer Cousins over Russ, and I would make a phone call.
I would prefer Cousins over Russ, and I agree. It's just too early to punt on the season and if you don't bring somebody else in and Browning continues to play this way, I think you might start losing players, Coach. They're just going to lose interest, and then maybe somebody can get hurt that way or whatever. And you don't want that. How about, you're going to like this. And Russ, I would take Russ over Browning.
Here we go.
Call the Niners.
Mac
Jones.
I think the Niners.
I don't know if they
trade their starting quarterback.
Mac. This is a good opportunity for Mac Jones.
This would be great for Mac, but I think he's actually too valuable for the Niners right now because Purdy is, hurt again. To me, Jameis.
I was going to say Jameis.
Jameis is. I would go Cousins, Jameis, and then I don't know, but I would make those calls, Coach.
Russ would be better too than Browning.
The challenging thing here is Cincinnati's not known for deal making.
No.
And Cincinnati's also not known for doing anything quickly. Think about how long it took for them to sign their own players and dragging stuff out. So the idea of them being able to go get a deal done with Atlanta for a guy like Kirk Cousins and get it done quickly, because even when you do the deal, you've got to get him in the building. You got to get him up. Now you can get a veteran guy up to speed fairly quickly, but each week that we go is a further week out. And if anything, Cincinnati tends to lean towards, we made a decision, we felt the decision was good at the time, we're going to see the decision through, and that's what it feels like with Browning is they've seen him win games in the past, and I'm sure organizationally they feel like he can continue to win games, and they're probably not going to make it.
They got Detroit and Green Bay next. Then they got this, I think the Steelers on a Thursday, so a short week. I mean, those are at least the next 2 games. They're losing no matter who they get.
I mean, listen, the Vikings defense is tough, and the Broncos defense was unbelievable yesterday. And credit to the Broncos. I thought the Bengals could keep it close. I thought they maybe even could win. They were one of my picks last week. They got annihilated yesterday. So I have been very surprised at how bad the passing offense has been.
Yeah.
With Brett, you know what I mean?
Penalties are bad. It's not just like.
It seems like the team also doesn't have any juice.
Yeah, Jamar said like we didn't want to play.
Yeah.
Jameis would be the fun option. Jameis would be exciting because he'll be throwing the touchdowns and interceptions.
No, but honestly, I bet for Chase,
Jameis
that would be you could deal with it.
Oh yeah.
You know what I
he
mean?
would those numbers would pop
Yeah.
with Jameis
I like
there.
that. Bengals have been outscored 76-13 in the last 2 games.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.